Hello and welcome to another video of how to repair Chevrolet Cobalts or Pontiac G5s, Pursuits, whatever. Same car, different badge. So in this video I'm going to explain how to replace the door handles, both front and rear doors. Mainly because mine are very corroded on the inside. There's a spring in here that's supposed to pull it back in. When you open it, yeah, this one clearly doesn't work. Like, I've tried looping this thing up several times. It just refuses to stay working. I do have new ones over here. You can see here, this is the one for the front. That's for the rear. So they are not interchangeable, unfortunately. They are different designs because of how they mount. So these front ones are held in by one bolt on the back, two on the front here. There's the spring that gets nice and corroded. And then the ones for the rear doors have a different mechanism here to attach the rods that go down to the latch. And it's also mounted different. There's like a single hole back here for a bolt and the same one up here. This front piece is also held in by this little, like, I guess, clip thing right there. If you're only taking the door handles off and you intend to put them back on, be very careful with this piece, because if you break this off, then it gets kind of loose in the front. I have an old one here that I took off of this car because it broke. And yeah, that one's broken there. And the two little, I guess, bolt hold things, those. The plastic that surrounds them broke off, so then the one time I went to open the door and this thing damn near came right off. But yeah. So yeah, let's get to replacing these things. All right, so the first thing that you're going to need to do is remove these little covers that hide the screws that hold this piece in here, as well as in there. There's another clip in there that you need to take off. These little end pieces here usually have little like clips meant to kind of allow you to grab onto it. They are very easy to break, whether or not you break them or not. Like, it doesn't really matter. You can still kind of fish them out if you have like a small screwdriver. So I unfortunately am doing this myself with one hand holding my phone. So yeah, I'm not really going to be able to film every process, but I will try to explain everything as best as I could. So yeah. All right, so I've taken these little covers off. You can see like the little tabs there, and the tab on this end is kind of busted off, but it does still work. You just have to kind of pry it up. So what you'll need to do from here on out, there's two screws in here. They are Phillips head, and there is one screw in there that is also a Phillips head. So we need to take these two out and that one out, and then move on to the next step. All right, now that the screws are out, what we can do is pull this piece up, pull all the wiring out of there, then we'll have to disconnect all these different plugs so that this can be removed. This piece up here just connects to the door latch, so what I usually do is just kind of undo that, and then once the door panel is off, I usually just shove that right through to disconnect it. So 1 second. All right, now that the window control unit thing is out, you can just tuck all the wires back down in here. Now this part gets a bit tricky. In order to pull the door panel off, there's a whole bunch of clips you need to undo that are like all around there, around the bottom and over here. The first thing that you're gonna have to do, there's these little guys here. Oops, dropped that one. But yeah, there's that little thing in there. Once you pull the middle out, you can kind of just try to grab this and just pull it out. There, see, that one just holds that. And there's another one down here. Once this is out, okay, all right. So now once those are out, then the door panel can start to come off. But this might get difficult because depending on how often you take your door panels off, this may or may not be easy. You may want to get yourself some kind of pry tool that won't damage paint or stuff like that. But I've taken these things off so many times I can literally just grab here and pull, and it comes off. Yours may be a bit stiffer, so if it is, you'll have to work your way around to kind of pull everything out around there and down here. What you want to do here is pull the door panel up. This piece also comes off. It's held in by clips. Now, be very careful with this. Like if you have the Pioneer system with the speaker here, there is a wire that is clipped into the door that goes to this. If you pull the door panel off, you will rip that right off and then bye-bye speaker. So be very careful. This is just held in with little clips, which you can see in a second. Right there. I don't know if you can, yeah, the wire can't be seen yet, but so in order to pull the door panel off, you just pull it up and off the door. Okay, there's the wire that you have to be careful of. So what you want to do, work your way in here, just pull this out so that you disconnect the speaker. And this piece, if you kind of position the door panel in the right way, you can kind of just shove that right through. I find that is easiest. And there we go, door panel is off. So I'm just going to set that down. Oops. Might as well pick these guys up before I destroy them. All right, so what you want to do here, you have the plastic weather barrier or moisture barrier, whatever you want to call it. You're going to have to pull this down. And don't worry if it stretches a lot. I mean, like this black goo, like it just goes back on afterwards anyways. Not a big deal. You don't have to pull it too far down, but just enough to give you access to this part, because you're going to need to get in here. Okay. And then the door lock knob thing has a little rubber gasket around it, or at least it should. You're going to need to pull that out of the hole and out of the way. So this is going to be hard to see, but I'll see if I can get the flash going. All right, now that we have the flash on so that we can actually see, you can see in here that this hole gives you access to the two bolts that hold the door handle on the back. And then over here you have access to the front one. So what you'll need to grab is a ratchet with a 10mm socket and probably a decent extension to be able to fit through this part. And then you just undo those 3 bolts and then we can move on to the next step. All right, so I already got the front bolt undone there, and I've loosened these 2. So this is a really awkward position to reach these things, but the best you can really do is just loosen them a bit and then reach in here and undo them the rest of the way. Yeah, this gets really awkward, but the easiest way to get access to these bolts, because you do technically have access if you reach around from the other side, but it's a real pain in the ass. So going through here is the best course of action. You may have to reach around to grab the bolts, assuming they don't fall down into the bottom of the door, but yeah. So yeah, once those bolts are loose and out, then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so while removing those bolts, one of them did end up falling into the bottom of the door here. So easiest way to get at that is to remove these 2 bolts here so that this piece can come off. And then we can get that bolt back. All right, so now that the bolts are out, like I said, you'll have to take this piece off to be able to get access to the bottom of the door. And because it's curved, your bolt's probably gonna end up over here. But yeah, next step, if I can get the right, there we go. If you can see that little yellow piece right there in the middle, that attaches to the rod that goes up to the handle. What you want to do is just reach in there and pull it open. I know it's kind of hard to describe, but it's basically just a little snap-on clip that grabs onto that rod. So once you unclip it, then it lets go of the rod and you can pull the handle out. So I'm going to see if I can reach my way in here. Okay, I've got it there. I mean, this might be hard to see. There. See how that just opened up and now that rod is loose? So now the back of the handle should be pretty free. And then we also have to loosen the front, but also have to be careful of that clip on the front piece, the black piece right there. So what you can do is basically just push in on that and it'll release. And then that piece is loose. This piece will eventually be loose because you also have the actual door lock in here as well. So then once that loosens up, this is usually easier if you pull the handle out a little bit so that the spring moves down. And then you can kind of wiggle it out of here. This is really hard to do one-handed, so yeah. Now the door lock, the actual like key lock, will just kind of fall out of this piece and just kind of sit there. That's perfectly fine. And then what you want to do here is get this friggin' spring piece to let go of the door hole. There we go. And the rod will come attached to it. Just pull that whole piece out. You can see how nasty this spring is and why it doesn't work anymore properly. But yeah. All right. I'm just gonna clean my hands up because this is getting kind of messy. All right, so once you have this door handle out, what you need to do here is basically remove this rod. All you pretty much have to do is just twist and pull it out and it'll come out of there, and then install this on the new one. All right, so I've gone ahead and changed the rod from here to here. So now this is ready to reinstall back in the door. So I'm actually going to recommend at this point, clean this area up as much as you can just to get rid of all the dirt and grime that you normally don't have access to. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now. All right, so now that that is cleaned up, what you want to do is grab the handle with the rod in place and just kind of shove that right back down in there. Now, again, this is easier to do if you manage to kind of pull the spring open a little bit so that you can wiggle it into place there, like that. The door lock thing will just kind of slide itself into place, so you don't have to worry too much about that. This front piece will snap in, like that. Then once you have everything lined up on this side here, then it's pretty much just reversing what you just did to take everything apart. So I'm gonna get started there. All right, so I got the other side of the handle in position. So what you basically want to do now is go back in and put that clip around the rod again. You may have to kind of wiggle it a bit to get it in the right spot, but it doesn't necessarily matter where on the rod it is as long as it's on that threaded part, like just so it can grab onto it. All right, see if I can show you this. You can see the threaded portion of the rod right here. What you have to do is kind of just put it back into position back here. And then get this clip in the right spot because it does spin around. You just kind of have to feel it in order to get it in the right position. It's easier said than done, I know. So what you just want to do is you want the open part of that clip to face the back of the door while at the same time being around the rod, which is a real pain in the ass. Okay, I'm almost there. This thing would cooperate. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just turn the camera off and then get this done because this is annoying. All right, it was a pain in the ass, but I got it. So you can see the rod is now inside there where it's supposed to be. So then it's just a matter of putting those 3 bolts back in, just kind of feed them through there, and then the one up here. All right, so we are all done. We got the bolt in there and the 2 bolts in there. So now, okay. See how much smoother that is? Now it actually works like it's supposed to. So yeah, now that this is done on there, it is pretty much just reversing everything that we did to take everything apart. So yeah, just put that little grommet back in place there. We're gonna have to put the plastic shield back up. Just kind of press it together. This stuff is very sticky. So then you can just kind of do that. And then the metal piece you can just slide back into here and then put the door panel back on. So let's get working on that. All right, so now that we have that metal piece back in and the plastic shields back in, so then we can go ahead and grab the door panel. So this gets kind of funky because the lock rod has to go through there. I wasn't expecting to get that the first try, but sure. And then what we can do is plug this back in here. Okay. Down here you can kind of try to pull the wires through this hole. And the door handle part that's up here, you can kind of just squeeze that through there. Now, this piece has to sit on there. So what you want to do is just kind of lift up on the door panel and kind of try to get it into position. Again, one hand is kind of awkward to do, so I'm sorry. I need to try to get the back and the front in position. Should be around there. And then what we can do is push the clips for this back in. There we go. So then everything here will be fine. And then just gonna try to pull those through again so that the rest of the door panel can go in. Now down here, you'll have to make sure that these clips actually go where they're supposed to. So you can kind of see this one's a little bit bent, but that's no big deal. Just kind of slide them into place and eventually they just snap in. Give it a few good whacks. And that is done. Then we can grab these little guys. Okay. And just put these in here. One on the top, one on the bottom. Okay. And get the center pieces. So then you can just kind of shove those into the middle of the hole there and then push it in. And then this one in here. There we go. And then plug all those back into this. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, sorry for the blurriness there. I had my finger in the way. But yeah, once you have all these plugged in, it's just a matter of shoving the wires back into this little hole. This little tab just slides under in the very front there. And then that just slides down. This fella, you can kind of just shove back in the hole and it'll clip itself into place. Okay, and then you just have to put the one screw back in there, the two back in there, put those little covers back on, and you're good to go. So I'm gonna take care of that now. Alrighty, got the screws back in. So now, put this little fella back in here. Just clips in. This little fella goes in here. And you're done. Brand new door handle that works as it should. All right. So these new door handles come with a little piece of plastic protective film on here. So now it's okay to remove that and then move on to the rear door. So The rear door is pretty much the exact same process that I just went over for the front door with a few minor differences. So I'm going to go ahead and take the door panel off and all that. And then when I reach the differences, then we'll go from there. All right, so I've gone ahead and removed the door panel and all this stuff from the back door. Same exact method as the front, like I mentioned. So you can see here, there's the one bolt on the front of the handle, along with the same little black clip. However, on the back, there's no access here because there's no bolts there except right here. Now, if you remove this little grommet plug thing, which is easier said than done. Come on. Everything is wet, so it's slippery. Okay, give me 1 second. Alrighty, got it off right there. So I'll just put that with the other stuff here, and you can see, if you look inside there, there's the other bolt that holds the handle in. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this one and that one, and then we're gonna have to do the same thing with that little yellow clip thing to get the rod loose. Alrighty, so ran into a little bit of a snafu when the bolt for there fell and went right in there and got stuck. So that was fun. But yeah, I got both of the bolts out, that one and the one in the back. You can kind of see the hole in the door where you can come in from the other side, but yeah. Here is the little clippy thingy that disconnects the lock rod or latch rod, whatever. So, okay. So you can see there, you just open that up and release the rod like that. Okay, and then don't forget about the little black piece. Push that in and release it so that you don't accidentally snap it off. And then go around this side. That side's loose. This side should be relatively loose. There we go. And it's out. Man, look at how brutal that is in there. Okay. I'm just gonna set that down. I'm gonna do the same as I did on the front and just clean that up real quick. All right, so that's nice and cleaned up now. So next step again, you wanna take the rod off of this one and put it on this one. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so rod is installed on the new one. Just push that down a little bit. I'm gonna take the new handle and go back over here and just kind of shove that in there. And it's kind of awkward because of the way this thing is designed, but and then try to pull that out a little bit so we can slide in there. The front piece will clip in. And it's just a matter of getting everything lined up on the back side and putting the bolts back in. So I go ahead and get that taken care of. Okay, so what I'm actually going to try to do is show getting this rod back in here, since the front one was kind of a pain. So what you want to do is just kind of get that rod back into place there. I know this thing is having issues focusing right now, but yeah, it's right there. Put the rod back in, and then you basically just clamp that back on like that, and you're good to go. Then you can put the bolts back in and go to town. All right, so I've gotten the two bolts for the handle back in. I put the plastic shield back in and the metal piece there. Don't forget about the little black grommet piece. Just shove her back in the hole there. Okay. Then once you get the door panel back on, you'll be done. So working on that next. All right, so I've got the door panel back on here. I got the two little clips put back in there. Everything else is fastened. This one's a bit easier to deal with than the front one, as long as you get the door lock rod through that hole and this sitting on the right spot, you're golden. Got that pushed back into place. I've reconnected the wire to this piece. So just like the front, you kind of show the front in there. Then once you get the 2 screws back in here and the 1 screw back in there, you'll be good to go. Then you put the little cover plates on them, and then we are done. All right, so I got the screws back in there, put the plates, cover plates back in, and then you're done and done. There we go. So now they actually spring back. So yeah, that is essentially how you remove and replace the door handles on Cobalts. This works for 2005 to 2010s. Chevy Cobalts, Pontiac G5s, Pursuits, depending on if you're in the US or Canada. But yeah, I'm reasonably sure that there are some other models that use the exact same door handles, but I cannot remember exactly which ones. I think it might have been Malibus or Impalas. I don't know. But yeah, just wanted to show one other thing though, because this one came off this car, a 4-door. This one that broke originally was on this car, which is a 2-door. These front handles are identical. They will work in either car. So if you happen to have a problem with your door handles and you have a coupe, or it's a problem with your front doors on your sedan, these are interchangeable. The only difference would be the rear doors for the sedans, because they are set up different. So these will only work on the back doors on a sedan. So you can't cheat the system and get like a no door lock key thing on a front using a back door handle. But these two are interchangeable. So yeah, that was from a coupe. This one's from a sedan. They are the same. So yeah, in any case, I hope that was somewhat informative. I know this is kind of a pain in the ass to do, since you have to like dismantle a bunch of stuff, but it is so much easier not having to worry about having the handle get stuck. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you later.